Yes, we do have, REC, the management joining in. And of course, power financiers have been in focus as well. A recent brokerage note said that the structural story for power financiers is very much intact. And that note largely is saying that due to lower credit risk, strong ROEs and valuations, many of these stocks are still looking good and they're inexpensive. This was a foreign brokerage that wrote. CLSA gave that view on REC and PFC. So how is the actual business on ground? Well, joining in to understand that, we have the CMD Vivek Kumar Devangan, ED Finance Harsh Baveja, and VK Singh, the ED Projects. Thank you very much for joining in, Mr. Devangan. I'll start with you. Good morning. So as you can see, the markets are still holding on to hope that your numbers will keep looking good as we go forward. But before the growth question, I want to come to the question in terms of your borrowing mix and the cost of funds, because the RBI has been taking increasing number of steps to boost liquidity in the markets. If you could just explain your borrowing mix right now to us and what the future has in store, the near future, in terms of margins. Can investors hope for any increase?
We use a judicious mix of our borrowing. Our 40% of borrowing is from domestic corporate bonds, about 18% is from domestic bank term loan. And we have instrument called 54EC bond, that is capital gains tax saving instrument, that constitutes about 10% of our borrowing. And our external commercial borrowing is around 30%. That has also, we have used hedging techniques, innovative hedging techniques, and we have been able to bring down our cost of fund to about 7.15% at the end of Q3. We hope that we'll be able to hold on to our spread of about 2.94 to 3% and net interest margin of 3.64% to about 3.7% going forward.
Gentlemen, it's so great to see the full strength of the REC team. Mr. Devangan, Mr. Baveja, Mr. Singh, on the finance side, project execution side, and of course, Mr. Devangan, as we always speak with you. So it's good to see all three of you here. Just give us a sense of, Mr. Devangan, how 2025 really will pan out in terms of disbursements, pace of growth. Is the focus on renewables absolutely going to remain unaltered? The reason I'm asking that is because, US is the big source of capital around the world. The US seems to be changing direction ever so slightly. And everybody else seems to be following the lead. Will we see any change in, of course, it will have to come from the government in that sense, but what is your own perspective, sir? If you can give us that broad sense, and we'll go back into micros again. Go on, sir.
Yeah, as far as the disbursement is concerned, you might have observed that our disbursement had increased by 19% at the end of Q3. And last year, total, our disbursement was to the tune of about 1,61,000 crore. And happy to share with you that we already crossed that mark in the current financial year. We already crossed disbursement of about 1,68,000 crore. And we hope that our disbursement will be increased as compared to last year in the range of 18 to 20%. And since we have large pipeline of projects, we already sanctioned number of projects, particularly with regard to renewable energy projects. As I had told you earlier, that on the sidelines of Energy Transition Working Group in Goa in July 2023, we had signed MOUs worth 2,86,000 crore. And I'm happy to share with you that we have already sanctioned projects more than 1,60,000 crore for those MOUs. And we have a huge pipeline of projects, and we hope that our loan book from renewable energy, which is at present 10% of our asset under management, which will go to about 30% of our asset under management to the tune of about 3 lakh crore by the end of 2030.
All right. Hi, sir. Good morning and good to see you all in. Just to reconfirm the numbers for this year, disbursement growth you're guiding for high double digits. Is that correct? And NIMs you mentioned about 3.6%. Is that the number?
Yes, disbursement would be around 18 to 20% increase, and NIM will be about 3.64% to 3.7%.
Got it. Okay, all right. So we've got that cleared out of the way. The other big factor that the street will be looking forward to is going to be write back of assets and resolution of assets as well. So could you tell us how much has been done? For this year, what is the number we should work with? And for the following year as well, what kind of number should we work with?
I'm happy that you asked this question. Today, we are going to get about 2,600 crore payout from KSK Mahanadi. Our recovery from KSK Mahanadi is going to be more than 100%. Total, the proceed that we are likely to get in the month of March is about 2,764 crore. We have also got very good resolution from Bhadrashwar project, which has there also we are getting very good right back. Then Sinnar plant in Nasik, there also our recovery is going to be very good. And Hiranmaye in West Bengal, there also our recovery is going to be very good. The total right back that we are assuming, it may go around 2,500 to 3,000 crore in the current financial year.
Sir, one more point, and I want to draw your attention, and maybe the others on the panel could also take this up. There was this report that the IMF put out, and what the IMF study is saying that NBFC's concentrated exposure to large infrastructure projects, specifically state-run, state-controlled NBFCs, this large concentrated exposure, this could perhaps in the future start creating some systemic risks for the financial sector as a whole, for financial sector stability. Your thoughts? I don't know if you saw this report, Mr. Devangan, and maybe Mr. Baweja can chip in, whether this causes any room to worry. I mean, it is the International Monetary Fund and their study that's throwing this up. They did not name REC or any entity in particular, I think, but they're saying large state-run enterprises that fund infrastructure. There could be a systemic issue over here. Sir.
Yeah, there have been some concern about the debt sustainability of the state utilities. But as we go by the history, not a single state utility has defaulted so far, and they are supported by the state government guarantees. And we have made a detailed analysis actually for the state utilities because there have been concerns about their debt sustainability. So we are taking due precaution, and additional prudential norms have been stipulated by Ministry Power that we are strictly following so as to avoid any unnecessary exposure. And we are ensuring that close monitoring of this project is being carried out by our project monitoring group. I'll request my Director of Finance to substantiate further on this issue.
Mr. Baweja, are you seeing pockets of stress build up anywhere? And is this this concern on systemic stability, financial sector stability, is it valid?
No, their point is very valid, but I'll come to from the perspective of the REC. That we have 88% loan book consists of the funding to the state government and state government agencies, and 12% is from the private sector. So as far as the state government fundings are concerned, we have never experienced in the last 10 or 15 years any kind of restructuring request or the delays in the repayments or the NPAs accruing. Barring one or two cases where they have slipped to the stage 2, but that is a regular phenomena. Sometimes administrative delays are there. So we have a robust appraisal system, and on the basis of the revenue sustainability of the project, we used to fund the projects. In case if any of the projects which is non-capex, generally from the state government utilities, we take the loans, we disburse the loan against the government guarantee. So our the loan is properly secured.
Got it. Just one more question on financing. There was a recent media in that 12%, which is to the private IPPs, etc., private sector, Mr. Baweja, there was another article recently which said that the RBI has asked, financial institutions to stop giving lines of credit to corporates. Is there any, generally that is not there as a practice. It's not widespread now, and I'm assuming those can be replaced with term loans. But at REC, is that a practice at all, Mr. Baweja?
That point is very well taken. In fact, what is happening that we don't give any kind of working capital funding to the private sector. And as far as the government sector is concerned, government utility distribution utilities are concerned, the government of India has already mandated that there should not be more than 35% of the seed. They have kept a ceiling of 35%. So beyond that, we cannot give them the working capital limit. So taken all together from all financial institutions, their working capital limit will not exceed the 35% of their revenue for the last year. So we are keeping that ceiling intact, and within that limit, we have given them, if any working capital limit is sanctioned, that is towards that, and that is within the ceiling.
Okay, just a final point, and again, we're just kind of trying to check if some of these reports are valid or not, and whether these concerns are valid or not. Mr. Singh, if I could come to you for this quick last bit. there are some press reports indicating that on the renewable side, there's a bit of an issue because there's a mismatch between the renewable, generation, the capacity, and the transmission capacity. So, some several gigawatts, I think 60 gigawatts is the number that's doing the rounds, that kind of, capacity is stuck. How much is REC right now lending to renewables? I mean, as a percentage, how much is, traditional thermal power and how much is renewables? And are you noticing this, on the renewable side? Is this becoming an issue in terms of the repayments that you would expect?
So, in terms of loan book, renewable energy constitutes roughly 10% of our total loan book. And whenever we take a funding of any renewable energy project, we first ensure that the evacuation system in particular is in place. So when a project comes up for lending, there are multiple things. And the prominent about those multiple things is PPA, availability of connectivity, availability of entire evacuation system, and then only we take up the project for lending. So as such, in our lending, of course, this is not an issue, but yes, in this sector, there are minor issues in terms of evacuation, but the lot of work is actually happening on this particular front, where evacuation perhaps as of now is not a constraint in evacuating renewable energy power.
Okay. Just one more thing, Mr. Singh, on the infrastructure side, that's a fast-growing area for you. What could you tell us? I think you sanctioned about 20,000 crores worth of loans last quarter. What's going to be the growth here in this segment?
Earlier we were taking up this infrastructure project quite seriously, but then there were many opportunities, particularly in thermal generation space, and many projects actually came our way. So we are now, again, our hands are full with, power sector projects financing. So we are not that much focused on infrastructure lending as of now, since there's a lot to do in power itself. But we are doing small bits in infrastructure lending as well.
Okay, enough to do in power. So that's the focus. Thank you very much, all three of you, Mr. Singh, Mr. Baweja, Mr. Devangan. Appreciate the three of you coming on and speaking with us here for our audience at CNBC TV 18. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We have the management of HUDCO coming up next to discuss demand trends going forward. Stay tuned.